Okay, so HoloSail Technologies, what we did is we actually, on accident, made a new technology that's never been made before. We are a nodal neural network with some aspects of AI, and then we're utilizing the peer-to-peer with Holochain. Joey will tell you later more about why we chose Holochain. But we can basically completely automate the global supply chain, free of the cloud, giving it unmatched cybersecurity, and this meaning all the way from factory to shelf or doorstep, last mile warehousing, sea freight, the whole nine, and even more. A marketplace for the supply chain community, that be inland or you know what have you, as well as insurance rate, freight insurance, marine insurance, all in one offering. So you, instead of needing 7 or 8 vendors, on top of that, you need to hire a security guy. You can do all of that on one app on your phone, and it's 10 times more secure than what you're using now with all the other vendors that you're paying money for. So the idea is really to level the playing field. If we provide this service, it will allow for more mom and pop trucking companies, more mom and pop manufacturers. It'll help the larger manufacturers. It'll help distributors, retail, shipping companies, trucking companies. It's a win-win for pretty much everybody who's not taking advantage anyway of the current situation that we're finding ourselves in. And then I think it would be we would be missing a big part if we didn't mention that we have 16 other industry applications on the patent. Banking, fintech, law enforcement, emergency response, just to name a few, that are basically the same thing we're doing with the supply chain. It's a plug and play once we have all the nodes in place for the supply chain. So we'll be doing this once the supply chain is out of beta testing. We'll begin doing it in all the other 16 verticals that we have lined up. I hope that answered your question, Johnny.
Oh my gosh. I think you are blowing people away about this. This is going to be so exciting.
Sure. So I feel like most people kind of know some of the, constraints that blockchain has. And in this industry, actually in multiple industries, they're really trying to force the blockchain down. And the problem is they're running into all these bottlenecks. They're running into issues with hackers, taking over, whether it's the centralized nodes. And really, the aspect that brought it about was the fact that it's so decentralized. It's one of those things where, GDPR compliance is a really big thing, and it's only getting bigger. And Holochain actually is already GDPR compliant. So you're GDPR compliant, from the very foundation of what you're building, which is huge, especially overseas. Here in the US, it's getting to that point, but it's very big overseas. And with all of the validations that are needed in a supply chain run, I mean, we're talking about astronomical numbers when it comes to goods moving, from one side of the world to the other. I mean, Johnny, well, I think the figure for it.
I think I'm just gonna. I don't mean to interrupt you, but one thing that I think he touched on, but he missed, is that when you're looking at a logistics world, global supply chain, you're talking that if I want to buy a pair of sneakers, it takes 12 to 15 people, according to our research and a lot of other people's research, and possibly more, to have to touch that. Now with blockchain, it's what their only answers are permission-based blockchains or hyperledgers, which really don't answer the question. All it does is add more to the problem and more spaghettis to the bowl, so to speak. What really touched was when I realized the scalability
Mm-hmm.
of Holochain, when Joey was explaining to me the scalability. Because in our industry and a lot of other industries that are operational, you can't, and this may be from my military background, you got to be able to adapt to situations. Plans never go exactly the way, operations never go exactly the way you want them to. So Holochain is just way more scalable, way more flexible than any form of blockchain. And then it also provided us the ability to take everything off the cloud.
Johnny, let me come back in. And,
Yes,
that's one of the things is that the scalability aspect, you have to have all of this going through. And if you don't, it breaks down and it slows things down. That's why when some people ship something, they got to wait 3 months for it. It's not because it's not at the port. It could already be at the port. It's that it's just not caught up with the system. And on top of that, companies don't want their data to be public, which is understandable from a company standpoint. From a company, you need to have that type of privacy for your company. And that's not what the blockchains are providing. They want that 100% openness. And, this really leaves something to be desired, which is why we think Holochain is the perfect fit.
All right, can I just piggyback real quick and then we'll be quiet and let you ask more questions? Just when he said that, it's perfectly quoted, but when you look at blockchain, it's literally anti-competition because like what Joey said, everybody knows. So if I want to sell, like we'll go back to I'm selling shoes, for example. If I'm sending that container of shoes to 3 different retailers, I don't want them to know what each one is paying. I want, that's competitive. That's called capitalism. That's what keeps the free market going, right? That competitive nature. Or with blockchain, I can't say the names of the companies that are doing it, but these companies in the industry, blockchain, literally you have to say, hey, here's my data. We never own your data. We don't want your data. It's your data. We're just keeping it safe until the transaction is complete. And guess what? We'll run another transaction for you, and we're stewards of your data. We're not trying to sell it. We don't need it. We just need it to make sure that your stuff you've ever had. I'll get off my soapbox there on that one. And Johnny, please, whatever you got else.
Honestly, this is amazing. I said to Nova, I was like, I'm hoping that I can just ask questions and then you two just absolutely blast the interview, and it's working out an absolute treat. This is so exciting. If I was to order something in China, will I be able to see that traveling real time to me using your technology?
Absolutely. The answer to that question is absolutely. At this time, we're not at we need to test the system more before we bring it down to the parcel level. But it's always been our intention to get it down to the parcel level. So eventually, yes. Right now, we do have a fully functional, our system works completely. We have a fully functional supply chain and inventory management system. What we're currently in seed round funding, and that seed round funding is to basically just generate enough devices to get out to the customers. So that's where we're at right now, and we definitely will be going down to the parcel level as small as we can. So literally, the goal is from factory to doorstep or shelf. However you end up getting if you're my wife over here, I'm like the West Caldwell, New Jersey hub of Amazon. So yeah, you'll be able to see it on your doorstep exactly where the goal is going. But at first, while we test the system, it'll be more containers, full box loads, trucks, and maybe parcels such as like pharmaceuticals that are stored in cooling systems, tests, things of that nature, and also some break bulk items that we've been talking to different customers that are looking to ship break bulk. And I hope that answers the question.
To put it lightly, this is the first steps. We have a
Yes.
lot of different avenues that we plan on executing, but this is really the first hurdle. Sure. So what we are testing is we're currently testing a device that can read multiple data points while on a journey. Some of those include tracking humidity, conditions while a parcel is in, movement, whether it's coming from overseas or whatnot. It's at more of a container level currently while we build. And so this device is currently ready to be used. A big portion of it is getting this moved over to Holochain, which is going to take some time. But as far as accomplishments, I mean, we did just have a third-party evaluation that's not quite made public yet. Hopefully, we'll be hearing more about what he had to say here in the future. But otherwise, at this time, we, this is really the first public stuff that we've gotten into. So, at this time, that's kind of where we're at. We're in a good alpha stage, getting ready to move into a beta stage here shortly. But otherwise, we're very, very excited.
Oh my gosh. And I'm sure we are extremely excited as well. This
Yeah, am I still frozen? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Johnny.
There we go, Johnny.
Okay. So the third party evaluation was done by he has a PhD from MIT here in the United States. It's not public yet. I did have the meeting with him. Joey, we will release that third party evaluation, and we're very happy with the outcome of it. I'll leave it at that. And we will also be probably within the next week or two, we have a live demo of the actual technology working at this stage that we have it. And we will release that probably in a few weeks. Right now, it's just reserved for current customer conversations and investor conversations. But once those are all locked down and our original first customers that have decided that they're interested in this, and investors that have decided they're interested, once they've all seen it and we're ready, we'll release the demo publicly as well, so everybody can see the live technology working.
One of the viewers has actually asked, and it's Fred Holo, and he said, please ask them if they plan to expand also using trains. Here in Austria and Germany, there are actually many technologies under development to track trains and goods on it. There is a lot of money in it. So will you be expanding to trains as well as shipping?
Hey, Johnny, real quick. So why don't you give them a rundown on, say, a mock supply chain run? Because trains do fall in that.
Right. So if for example, we have a distributor. I'm just going to stick with shoes because everybody buys shoes and they're an easy count. 9,000 shoe boxes can fit into a 40-foot container. So it gives you an idea of the amount of movement that's happening. So say I want to buy shoes from a factory in Vietnam, and I'm the retailer on the other end. So I call up the manufacturer in Vietnam and say I want a 40-foot container of shoes. Let's change shoes to coffee. I want coffee, because perishable goods will highlight what we can show you even more. And so they ship that in 20-foot containers. So I want a 20-foot container of coffee. They say, okay, here's we loaded it. Here's the bill of lading. Here's your manifest. That all goes into our system. We loaded a 20-foot container of coffee here in X country, and it's headed to, Seattle for, because everybody in Seattle drinks coffee. And it gets to Seattle and they open it up. And so, number one, they load the container. Now a truck has to come to the container and take it to a terminal. The terminal has to engate that container and put it into a yard. Then it has to wait for a ship to come. Then they have to take it from the yard, and the stevedore has to take it and load it onto the ship. Now it's on the ship. It goes in the ocean. and then eventually it gets to another port where it's discharged from the ship. It goes into a yard, and then another trucking company or rail will come and pick it up from the terminal and take it to a distribution facility, which they call where they unpack, the containers and distribute it into multiple different trucks going outbound. And at that point, the coffee guy will be like, "Wait a second, there's only 13 tons. Here it says 15 tons at time of loading." Well, if you have our technology, you can see. You ask the shipper to put it below deck because you didn't want it exposed to heat, because you didn't want dehydration for your coffee, right? Because it sat outside on top of the container on the San Trino Bay for 36 days. Then it's not the coffee guy's fault anymore, right? I didn't, they have proof. They can see what time, when it actually passed the temperature and humidity threshold for that container. And the moment it happens in real time, whoever that container belongs to, whoever needs to know, the alarm will go off and ring on your phone and say, container, TTNU XYZ, blah, 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 has reached this threshold. This is the location. This, expect to know that you're going to have dehydration happening in your cargo.
Mm-hmm.
Similar, if there's damage to the cargo, if the cargo's been opened, a whole list of different things that we can provide that others can't.
Which includes to answer the question, which includes once it gets to the port home, that might go on truck, that might go on rail, but either way, it's getting to the customers.
Right, and a big thing I think we'd be very remiss not to mention, the Federal Maritime Commission is currently, here in the United States, is currently doing an investigation on terminal operators and the way they charge demurrage, which is the amount of money they charge people for their containers being on terminal. The problem is we have this backup in the bays. We have the backup there's not enough drivers. We have a driver shortage because federal regulations on marijuana. That's a whole other story for another show. Maybe we'll come up and I will gladly talk to you about. But so here in the United States, we have a shortage of drivers. So then, you have these terminal operators charging people money for their freight being on terminal. Sometimes, how do you know it's there? What's your proof that my container is on your can you prove it to me? Can you show me that container?
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't. Because
Mm-hmm.
half the time it's lost on the container and they lost it, and that's why you're not getting your cargo. The other half is still on the ship. The other half, it hasn't been, who knows? We know. We can tell you where your cargo is. Exactly. And what's happening to it. So I'll stop there. There's a lot of other equipment shortage issues plaguing the supply chain right now. It's like empty containers, chassis, things of that nature. And we can also do this with not just containers, but chassis for trucks as well.
Wow.
I'll stop there.
Oh my gosh. Right. Okay. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Well, thank you very much, Jonny. And thank you so much, Joey. You've been awesome. I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.